Pan Wang, Associate Professor in Chinese and Asian Studies at the University of New South Wales, presents her talk on the topic Love in China, Politics, Economics, and Social Change. Pan Wang is Associate Professor in Chinese and Asian Studies at the University of New South Wales. She is the author of Love and Marriage in Globalizing China, Routledge, 2015. She is currently guest editor for the special issue of Genealogy titled Challenges in Multicultural Marriages and Families, 2024. Her recent publications include Violence Against Women, Can the Law Help? China Story. Yearbook, Chains, ANU Press, 2022. Love During the Cultural Revolution, Evidence from a Couple's Private Letters, 1968-1977, The History of the Family, 2022, and Going Solo, An Analysis of China's Single Economy Through the Date-Renting Industry, Asian Studies Review, 2021. Today, she will give a talk on the topic, Love in China, Politics, Economics, and Social Change.
Thanks so much for the introduction. Let me just share my screen in a sec. Sharing, and you should be able to see my screen now. And I'll get started. So firstly, I'd like to thank Victor and the organizers of the conference. So my talk today, as you can see, is about love in China, politics, economics, and social change. It is a very broad topic, so I will be teasing out the significant changes in each historical phase and show how love has evolved from the past to present. I draw on a wide range of texts for this analysis, including government statistics on marriage and divorce, legal documents, Maoist folk songs, poems, posters, love letters, the Chinese media reports, television dating shows, websites, and popular discourses of love. So this research is also informed by my ethnographic research at different marriage matchmaking corners in Beijing and Shanghai in 2019. So first one, let's focus on the Maoist period. Let's see how love was like under socialist revolution. That is from 1950 to 1970s. So let's have a look at the marriage law first and its aftermaths. So the Chinese Communist Party passed a marriage law in 1950. It abolished the feudal marriage practices and introduced the concept of freedom of marriage, monogamy, and gender equality, etc. So this is all in accordance with the Constitution. This law led to very promising results in the more cosmopolitan cities, as many women successfully filed for divorce during that time and freed themselves from the shackles of forced marriage, arranged marriage. So it also gave young adults greater autonomy in choosing their marriage partners. However, the new marriage law did not bring about significant changes in family relationships in the countryside. Because some illiterate women, they didn't know how to file for divorce. So they were disadvantaged in this regard because they were like of assistance from the state institutions. They didn't know how to support themselves in fighting for the divorce, etc. And Chinese parents also continue to exert strong control and influence over their children's private lives. Many women also faced enormous difficulties in fighting for divorce due to strong opposition from their husbands, parents, and in-laws and local officials. So there basically were a lot of obstacles there for women, especially in rural area, to file for divorce. However, this law didn't foster, that's what I'm arguing, this law didn't foster an atmosphere in which individuals could love, marry, and divorce freely, as the patriarchal constraints were there, and the newly created social institutions were established, and the lack of support for women, and also plus the stigma surrounding divorce, were firmly entrenched. All of these as new and old forces together could be confusing for women in China, in rural China. And this, the intertwining of traditional kinship networks, and also gender inequalities, old institutions, patriarchal mentalities, all inhibit the development of a dating culture. So this law was amended in 1980 when the state granted divorce solely on the breakdown of mutual affection, 感情破裂 in Chinese. So this between spouses. So this provision was reiterated in the 2001 marriage law and the 2020 civil code. So you can see this emotional turn. But this emotional turn suggests in retrospect that emotion was a neglected element in state legislation on marriage before 1980. However, this has started to change since 1980, and divorce also got easier. So we do start to see the change ever since 1980. And you can see the poster on the right side on the screen, 自由婚姻, free marriage and happy, basically saying freedom of marriage and happy. This is one of the propaganda posters that promoting the marriage law during that time. And now let's have a look at another milestone here, class love during the land reform. That's from 1950 and 1953. So in order to ensure social equality of land ownership and also boost agriculture production, the CPC launched, the Chinese Communist Party launched its first land reform in 1950. As part of that campaign, the rural population was divided into different class categories based on their possession of land and labor relations. These included the exploiting class, the exploited class, and the class in between. So the exploiting class were known as the bad class. Those were the landlords and rich peasants. And for the exploited class, they were the good class. They, compose poor peasants. So that's just to specify the categories. And in terms of mate selection here, the imposed class designations, as you could see, became a marker of personal identity and designated the moral boundaries that separated the good from the bad. So the division subsequently created this barrier to class love, to cross class love, and created hierarchy in mate selection. I want to emphasize this, the hierarchy of mate selections here. So people tended to choose partners within their class category. So as class endogamy was pretty prominent during that time. And the good class, they wanted to, marry within their class for sure. And for the bad class, they wanted to go up as well, or either horizontally. So it's really hard for people with bad class to look for an ideal spouse during that time. And people with bad class status, they were disadvantaged because they had very limited opportunity to choose a partner. They had to compromise in various ways as well. So this is about the so-called class love during the land reform. And you can see here on this slide during the land reform, on the picture on the left, you see that's the people's courts. People's courts were established to conduct trials of landlords. You can see the landlords here. One of the landlords here was condemned by the group of peasants. They're sitting there and criticized, and actually a million landlords were been killed during that time. And on the right-hand side, you can see one of the propaganda posters again, glorifying the land reform, saying the completion of land reform led to a happy life of peasants. You can see how happy the peasants were, and that's a picture of the family, a portrayal of the family, and with Mao's portrait in the middle, hanging on the wall in the center of the family. And now let's have a look at collectivization period. That's from 1953 to 1960. So the intimate engagement and courtship process during the collectivization period is documented in the widely circulated song album called 红旗歌谣. You can see the book on the right, written in Chinese, 红旗歌谣, Songs of the Red Flag. So this volume has 300 songs written by Chinese proletarians from across the country. And these songs conveyed the emotions, determination, ambition, and achievements of the proletarians in line with the revolutionary goals during that time. Let me give you one example. We could see this song, a few lines here. Let me read it out. The title here is Younger Sister is in the Commune. So elder brother is a folk song singer. He sings on the top of the mountain every day. His songs used to be all about me, but why not now? It's not that I no longer sing about you or have forgotten you, my young sister. It is because I could not say more about the happiness of our commune, and you are in the commune with me. I put with me there so that you know. So you can see by revealing the young lady's concern and misunderstanding about her elder brother's affection for her, the flirtatious rhetoric convinces the reader that the people's commune is the source of happiness that has brought the two lovers together. So this also reinforced the powerful slogan, people's communes are good, which was propagated at the time and successfully mobilized the mass support for the Communist Party. So by the way, people's commune, in simple terms, this is, refers to a large rural Chinese organization introduced in 1958. It has thousands of families combined for collective farming, fishing, mining, or industrial projects. So you can see, taken as a whole, I mean, this song is representative. It's just one song we shared. Taken as a whole, all of these songs together in that volume successfully connect CPC's narratives of legitimacy to the grassroots effects. So they establish a close connection between love, affection, and labor. So the love songs present the ideal type of masculinity as hard workers and exemplary laborers. It also conveyed personal will and ambition for China's revolutionary goals through courtship. So basically, you can see the mingling between this between personal affection and love and the personal ambitions and the revolutionary goals. So this shows, the CPC's effective strategy to direct people's affection towards the collective mission without being, I quote Shander, without being deflected by love, sexual desire, or any strivings for private happiness. So you can see love affection and emotions were interwoven with the Chinese Revolution and jointly functioned as an effective and effective tool and catalyst for socialist construction during the collective era. And if we move on to the Sanddown period and the Cultural Revolution period, that's from the late 1950s to 1970s. Yeah, so Sundown from the mid 1950s to the 1970s, more than 16 million urban youth were mobilized to go to the countryside to learn from peasants, either voluntarily or coercively. So they were instructed to devote their time and youthful energy to the socialist revolution and production. So state authorities during that time also discouraged these people from dating because they were concerning about early marriages and housing problems in rural China. So a number of youths who wanted to date, they inhibited their desire to date because of such encouragement from the state. But on the other hand, there were a group of people, because you can see the absence of parents there, they found it's free and in a new environment. So they actually found the new freedom to love, to court, and have sex. So many formed romantic relationships with their peers and local farmers and laborers, and others reportedly indulged in sex and love affairs. So you can see in the midst of the movement, the Cultural Revolution ignited in May 1966. So love, romance, and intimacy were seen as tainted by capitalist lifestyle and hence incompatible with China's socialist ethos. You can see this heightened political ideologies during the Cultural Revolution and see how love was perceived during that time and how romantic love was attacked as part of the class struggle. So formal rules were established in many educational institutions there that forbade talking about romance, and students who violated these prohibitions, they risked being criticized in public. And dating was deemed to hinder one's political progress, which means obtaining membership of the CPC and getting promoted at workplace or other opportunities in professional life. So couples who showed affection in public, such as holding hands, hugging, were prone to gossip. And individuals were obliged to choose the politically correct person to marry. So this meant choosing someone who had a good class or a good family background, such as cadres, workers, soldiers, and poor peasants. And also personal matters during that time, 个人问题 in Chinese, and the political revolution were closely intertwined. So it was very common for dating to be conducted in the name of work, and for love letters to begin with 同志, comrade. So at the final year of the Cultural Revolution, the Red Guards descended from the so-called revolutionary leaders to young people with no school to attend, no enemies to fight. So they were pretty active during the Cultural Revolution, as you can see, the earlier period of Cultural Revolution. And since they got no enemies to fight, no schools to attend, their status descended. So that led to their self-indulgence in love and romance. The Sanddown movement and the Cultural Revolution, if we look at that as a whole, that witnessed the paradoxical existence of self-restraint and self-indulgence in intimate relationships. So personal matters and love and revolutionary passion were intertwined, and the class struggle, continued to have a strong impact on love and personal intimate relationships throughout the 1950s and 1960s. So this situation didn't really change until the late 1970s, when the CPC abolished class labels as a political category and reopen itself to the world. So this leads to our second phase, opening up an economic reform period that's from 1970s onwards. So let's just focus on two types of love during the opening up period. So the first one I want to focus is intercultural love. So intercultural love. From the early 1970s, intercultural intimacy was still pretty rare, because that was a taboo during the Cultural Revolution, and social prejudice against foreigners were prevalent, and there was very limited physical space for Chinese citizens, to date foreigners and engage them on an intimate level. And travel restrictions was also a thing that prohibited the intimate engagement between Chinese and foreigners. So from from the 1980s onwards, new rules were established which standardized travel, and because of that, travel became easier. That facilitated the growth of Sino-foreign marriages. So that's why you see the intercultural marriage registration in China started to grow from the late 1970s and reached its peak in 2001 before tumbling down. So if you look at the media reports before and after 2000s, you will notice it's all marked by gendered cautionary tales of Sino-foreign love before the 2000s. And after 2000s, there were romantic stories, more romantic stories, and still, relationship problems were there. So as a mixture of these reports, so taken as a whole, you can see the paradoxical coexistence of admiration for the West and xenophobic sentiments, both from the media reports of intercultural marriages in China. And discourses around foreigners itself were fantasized, racialized, and Sino-foreign intimacy became a politicized object that was simultaneously celebrated and censored in official Chinese narratives. Now let me share an interesting poster with you that senses Sino-foreign love. This poster is titled 危险的爱情, Dangerous Love. So let me tell you the story. So China launched a campaign in April 2016 to promote its first National Security Education Day. So this campaign included this 16-panel cartoon poster. So that was displayed in public places like subways, billboards, government bulletins, everywhere. So the cartoon narrates the romantic story of David. You can see the white Caucasian guy there, and with red hair, David. And he was a foreign spy disguised as a Chinese studies scholar who seduces Li. Li is a young and innocent Chinese civil servant. You can see the girl there, a Chinese girl. So she holds the eternal documents as she eternal documents of the government as she works as a civil servant. David was trying to seduce her. So after David confessed a love to Li, the two began a relationship. You can see. So in the end, they are both arrested by the Chinese police. Li is handcuffed. You can see crying. The last image was crying. And she learned the truth, who David was. The poster concludes with a warning from the police about the consequences and penalties for violating the PRC's criminal and counter-espionage laws. So you can see Sino-foreign intimacy is a barometer of Sino-foreign relations. It's a dual and contradictory means for the government to celebrate multiculturalism while denouncing negative foreign influence as a site of transnational racial and sexual politics. Chinese foreign romance is also prone to stereotyping, politicization, and censorship. And this is just one example that I'm showing. Now, the second type of love I want to focus on is LGBT plus love. So since 1990s, you start to see growing discourses on homosexual love in China. That included popular writings on LGBT plus topics, boys, love literature, queer music and films, and discussions about LGBT communities. And also there was a rising Tongzhi communities in the 2010s from, you can see gay bars proliferated and restaurants, nightclubs, gay websites, all of these, and also LGBT organizations. They held activities, campaigns for marriage equality. These were all organized by gay activists. And in the late 2010s, the Chinese government also made an unprecedented decision to include non-heterosexual couples in its guardianship agreement, 议定监护, if you have heard that term in Chinese. So that marks the legal recognition of same-sex partnerships in China outside the framework of a conventional marriage. So recently, however, there has been increased censorship exacerbated by President Xi Jinping's drive to revive traditional Chinese family values. This has hindered the development of the subaltern love and put pressure on non-heterosexual couples. But LGBTQ communities continue to fight and developed innovative ways to protest and legitimize their love. Here, I want to focus on the guardianship agreement. So the system, you can see, was originally developed for the elderly aged over 60 and above. So over 60, especially those who have no children or lost their children, to protect themselves. It allows individuals to appoint somebody to make decisions on their behalf in case of an emergency. For example, if someone under guardianship is in a coma, then the appointed guardian can authorize immediate surgery. And he also has the right to withdraw money from the patient's bank and decide on the patient's assets and properties. So as same-sex marriage remains illegal in China, guardianship agreement marks the legal recognition of same-sex partnerships in China outside the framework of traditional marriage. So you can see, although far from recognizing marriage, it provides emotional and moral support to China's sexual minorities. This gives LGBTQ couples the same rights as marriage, including, say, power of attorney and inheritance rights. However, here, the new system can raise ethical challenges. For example, if some same-sex lovers who are legally bond to their heterosexual couples want to name their same-sex couple, names their same-sex lover as their legal guardian. So this, will raise complexities. So this highlights the complexity that couples may face in negotiating and navigating appointed guardianship. And here you can see on this slide on the left, his picture shows you a retired teacher and his partner, a migrant worker, openly publicizing their relationship and love in Beijing with, the support of their group of friends, and picture on the right, two lesbians here post their wedding photographs at Tiananmen Street on Valentine's Day in Beijing. So Tiananmen Street is the central part, central axis of Beijing. And so if you want, one can certainly argue this is kind of performance or performative art. But what I'm saying here is some lesbians or gays, they can use performative art as a way to protest for the rights and interests of gays. And so this is a more, safer way to deliver their marriage, advocating for marriage equality. And now let's focus on love in the new millennium. As we started 10 minutes after the planned time, I believe I still have around 6 minutes or so, right? So love in the new millennium. Let's have a look at that. That's the focusing period is the new millennium, 2000s onward. So starting from the early 2000s, China witnessed an unmarried crisis. You can see this refers to the double marriage squeeze of the 1980s and 1990s generation due to the earlier implementation of the one-child policy, because those people born under the one-child policy, when they reach the marriageable age in the 2000s, they found it's difficult to find love. So especially in rural China, where the patriarchal form remains very strong, millions of unmarried men, they were struggling to find love. So they were squeezed out of the local marriage market. So this situation is exacerbated by the flow of migrant women from the countryside to the cities. And also in urban China, many young people of marriageable age, especially women, they were squeezed out of the local urban marriage market as well, due to the lack of compatible men they can find, and that's compounded by the lack of time and opportunities for socializing and dating. So the growing number of the so-called leftover men, 剩男, and leftover women has become a social concern. That's what I mean, the double marriage squeeze. So at the same time, the millennium saw a plethora of problems relating to love, marriage, and family. So marriage and birth rates keeps falling, divorce rate keeps rising, and there are various types of relationship conflicts. The factors here I've listed include simplified divorce procedures, growing tolerance of new sexual norms, where that's why you see growing incidents of extramarital affairs, those, and affection indulgence and parental interference of their children's marriage decisions, domestic violence, abuse, and also underlying family conflicts. All of these were really amplified during the COVID-19 period, and also changing gender relations, also shaped by China's growing feminism, also plays a role in contributing to the rising divorce rates and broken relationships. And here, an image is in Chinese is 没啥大事，就是来横幅告诉你离婚快乐啊 ，not a big deal. Though this banner is just to let you know that divorce is a happy thing. What you see here is 3 women right after divorce registration. They were holding that banner to tell people divorce is something happy and worth celebrating. So you can see this emotional turnaround that happening in 2010. This is representative, although it's not widespread. So some people, especially young women, feminists especially, they spearheaded by the Me generation, called the Me generation. So they were saying divorce is something happy, worth celebrating. So they photographed their divorce ceremonies, and they see that as a redemption from broken relationships, and as a solution to marital problems and the beginning of a new life. What I'm highlighting here is the changing attitudes toward divorce held by a group of young women, especially spearheaded by young feminists of the me generation. And next one, just briefly, it's on artificial intimacy. Consuming artificial. Sorry, am I? Sorry, I think here is a typo. Consuming artificial intimacy. So the deepening of the market economy and technological advances that turned love into a fast food commodity for mass consumption in China during the millennium period. That's evident in dating shows, digital platforms, intimacy between humans and AI dolls. So let's focus on human, not human intimacy here. So there is a growing demand for sex dolls in recent years in China, especially during the COVID period. When a rising number of people suffered from loneliness due to the nationwide lockdown and social distancing measures. So these humanoid dolls, what I want to say is they are not really sex tools, because many lonely men who struggle to find a partner, they really developed a emotional attachment to their dolls and see them as real lovers and companions. Pictures here shows you a man, 31-year-old man who is a former employee of Chinese smartphone company Huawei, married a self-made robot named Ying Ying. So after dating Ying for 2 years, he held a traditional Chinese wedding ceremony in Hangzhou. So this was attended by his mother and friends, where Ying's head was also covered with a red cloth, just like the normal conventional marriage ceremonies in China. He also had a plan to rig Ying so that she could walk and do household chores. So this is real, and there are many stories like this as well, more and more you see. So you can see humanoid dolls can't fulfill the physiological needs of singles by recreating this intimate experience that humans have with sex workers. Right, other than the physical aspect, they can go beyond sexual affection and turn into familial and companion love. And love is expressed and maintained through intimate communication, both verbally, emotionally, and physically, and also non-sexual physical activities. So we can see the blurred boundary between human love and human doll love. That can be attributed to the following reasons, as you can see, just briefly, as a way to resist a marriage, pressure from family and society. This is a pretty unique reason that applies to China. It's just unique in China. It doesn't apply to many other Western countries. And some are disillusioned about love between people, hence they choose to marry or love a robot. 3, doll relationship offers a valid and more desirable alternative to being alone. And 4, isolating oneself and anthropomorphizing robots can be a means of attracting attention of a potential human partner. And the last point, individuals have greater autonomy to make love and marriage decisions, especially the younger generations in China. They have this decision-making power. And so you can see all of these imaginary, fantasized, but authentic lovers provide users with emotional support and romantic attachments, right? So, but they may paradoxically reinforce China's increasing connected loneliness. you can see the growing popularity of non-human intimacy has also redefined conventional notions of love, marriage, and family in China. Thank you. And comments and questions, welcome. If we got time. Oh, sorry, I couldn't hear you. I can't hear you.
For your outstanding.
Still.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you
Yes.
so very much for your speech. Quite amazing also. And is there any question? Yes. Could you please?
Thank you so much, Professor Wang, for this fantastic talk. I'm really surprised, I suppose many of us are, by this amazing evolution of the situation of love relationships in China. And I was wondering about what the future holds, I mean, for love. Is the government currently openly accepting this situation, or is the government perhaps trying to fight this opening of the love panorama in China? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. What's love like in the future? It's really hard to predict, but basically love is a personal decision at the moment. What I'm arguing is people do gain, they have gained freedom of love and marriage. But earlier, during the Maoist period, even China established launched the marriage law that gave people freedom of marriage that didn't convert to freedom of love. But at the moment, it's different. Love is free. So you can see on social media, digital device, or even love between real person, men, and AI and dolls, or even virtual animations. So this has become so diverse and so personalized, and the boundary you can see between the boundary between real love, the realness, and fake love has become blurred. That's what I'm, seeing at the moment, especially driven by digital technology and AI. And it is indeed a revolution, that is happening. And what I want to argue is China is seeing the fourth stage of sexual revolution. So Elaine Jeffries and new scholars have pointed out China has seen three stages of sexual revolution since the 1980s to the 2010s. But now what we are seeing, driven by AI technology and robots and virtual reality, etc., the fourth revolution is happening. Yeah. And but the government has less say, but certainly that also create the gray areas. What I mean is illegal conduct here and legal. So the boundary between legal and illegal, the boundary between realness and fakeness, has become blurry.
Okay, thank you very much. We have one more question.
Yeah. I'll also say, Cici, thank you for your enlightening presentation. And my question is about the legal acceptance of this marriage or sort of intimate relationship between human and non-humans. This is one question. The second is about import of potential spouses. I'm originally from India, living in Denmark, but in India there are certain parts where there is deficit of female spouses, so they are being sort of imported from other parts of other states of India, or maybe also from some other countries. So is there some sort of tendency that potential partners can come from other countries? So there are these two questions about legitimacy and acceptance of human and non-human spouses. And the second one is about import of spouses from other parts of world or other states of China?
Thank you for the questions. I'll respond to the second one first. So import of fossils from other countries. So there is no effort made by the government because there is no need to do so. But for cross-border marriages, or it has become increasingly common, and if human, I mean, how do we understand import of spouses? It can refer to perhaps to a sex trafficking, women trafficking. And if in that case, yes, you can see brides from Southeast Asia and from other parts of Asia. They were voluntarily or coercedly or cheated to travel to China, and in the name of marriage, right? Or in the name of work, to look for better job and better life opportunities to China, because that's an upward opportunities for the relatively less developed countries. So yes, those brides have, it's pretty gendered phenomenon though, coming from Southeast Asia, like the Laos, the Philippines, the Laos, Vietnam, Thailand, those countries to China, and especially those people are desired and demanded by the vast number of bachelors residing in rural China. So we do know there are a lot of men and then women in rural China who need wife. So this created a market demand, supply and demand, and for the import of spouses from less developed areas to developed China. And first question on legal acceptance of AI, on legal acceptance of human and non-human relationships. I guess this is an area that really worth exploring, given this is the infant stage of AI development, and there is no real regulations at the moment that prohibiting or regulating intimacy between humans and non-humans. I guess maybe in the near future we will see legal frameworks where policies may be established to regulate certain behaviors, especially behaviors that relate to illegal conducts, like fake marriage. So fake marriage, that means fraud. What I mean is fraud marriage that can be. But this is all, basically people get a lot of autonomy to make their own decisions, their life decisions. At the moment, we don't see any prohibitions in legal sense on their intimate behaviors. But certainly this is an area that worth look into, and I will keep observing that, and update you if there is anything new that is happening in this field. I hope I answered that question.